Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Henning. Welcome.
Hello.
So, this is the first episode of the Pilgrim Path Podcast. And the idea or the intention for this podcast is to actually have people coming and share their stories on their pilgrimage or their way of seeking truth, seeking to find out more of who they really are, what our natural state, whatever it is beyond our concepts, our ideas of ourselves or the world. And to really show how there are so many different ways to approach this path, or how it can unfold, and how there's so much diversity. I feel like often people have somewhat limited perspective of, oh, I should be doing these kind of things, these kind of practices, and follow these people. But my intention is to inspire that this path can really look like something we often cannot even imagine. And Henning is a good example of this, of someone who has a pretty fascinating story, which he'll be telling more about in a moment. Henning is a friend of mine. We followed the same teacher, and we were in the same, or are in the same spiritual community, and we've met at events, and now spend about a month in the same living environment. So as we got to know each other more,
Very rich.
Very rich conversations, and felt inspired to invite him over and have him as my first guest to
Thank you.
share his journey and how he got to where he is, and what he's learned, what's been some of the obstacles, challenges, and so welcome. I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So I'm sure it'll be no different with the camera looking at us.
Yes, nice. So I think maybe as a first question would be nice to, if you can just share something about where you were at in life. What was your experience of life, of yourself, just before you started going on the spiritual journey, and what was that first initial event or insight, wherever it was, that inspired you to go into what we call spirituality?
Yeah, gladly. So I suppose without going too far back, or without becoming too elaborate, I was not interested in spirituality at all, like not even in the least. I was very materialistically oriented, and I just wanted to be a successful person. I wanted validation in society, these kinds of things. At the time, I was in filmmaking, and actually lived in Los Angeles at the time.
How long ago was this?
This is like 15 years or something like that. Yeah, quite a while. Yeah, maybe longer even. Wait a second, it's more like 20 years, almost 20 years. Something I've forgotten about time, to be honest, but quite some time ago. And so no, it was not 20 years ago, it was like 15 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically I was interested in all kinds of worldly successes, but I could somehow sense I could feel this sort of, it's like there was a brake activated within me. It's like I was driving a car, but the handbrake was on or something like this. I could somehow sense um, beneath my conscious mind, and of course at the time I didn't have this language for it, I just sort of felt that I tried to move forward and I somehow couldn't. And I could feel that it began to dawn to me that the reason I couldn't was that something within me was holding me back. And so at first, I thought, well, clearly, I have some sort of subconscious programming that is holding me back from achieving what I want. So that was sort of, again, the first dawning into the idea that, well, actually, my whole being is a bit, or my whole setup, my whole makeup is a bit larger than just the conscious mind, which I never even considered up until that point, to be quite frank, even though I was quite, artistically oriented, really into arts, poetry, all this kind of stuff, but never really consciously considered that there is more to us than, what we're aware of on the surface. Like it didn't occur to me, really. Never really thought about it. So that kind of began to dawn on me, that there are aspects of what I would consider myself at the time that are beneath the surface of my conscious mind, and that are affecting me in ways that I'm not consciously controlling. And so I thought, well, clearly I need to work on this if I am to succeed at the things that I want to succeed at. So I began studying. I went to my local bookstore and looked at the psychology section, just see like what's there, like let me have a look. Like I began this was sort of the first impulse to begin to actually like research the psyche and the mind, and sort of begin to look at myself rather than like just seeking things outside in the world. Let me pull back that attention and let me actually look at myself. That was the first impulse to do so. So I started looking at the psychologists, and very quickly found my way to the like more famous psychoanalysts like Freud and Jung. And somehow I never resonated so much with Sigmund Freud, but Carl Jung really struck a chord with me. So much so that I read most of his works, actually. So I went on this reading spree. I began to, all of a sudden, like, it's as if these books began to read themselves. Like it became the sequence of ingesting material. Like I started reading, works by Carl Jung, and one after the other, and just kind of soaked it up. And that sort of kept going for a while. That went on for a while. And then something kind of extraordinary happened. So I was sitting outside looking at the city one night, one evening, and completely out of the blue, I had some sort of awakening experience. And it's just like my mind completely opened for a moment, and I could just see that it was all a dream, that physical reality was a dream, and in many cases a nightmare also. Like I could just see that it was some kind of a psychophysical apparition that didn't have any inherent substance, and that it was somehow arising within me. And this sort of expanse lasted just for a glimpse. Like it was not even a second, maybe. It was just this flash of altered perception combined with radical knowingness, and a complete shock thereafter. So this like hit me like a flash, and I was completely bewildered for a moment. I was like, what's going on? Like, am I going crazy? What's happening, right? I had zero context for this. I never heard about terms like spiritual awakening. I hadn't even heard about this term, right? So,
Cool. So just to be clear, at this
yeah,
point, when you had this sort of
yeah,
what some people call, I think, a pop-out experience, where you realize, oh wait, um, I'm somehow so much more than these
Mhm.
thoughts and feelings and sensations that come up.
I would just to clarify, I would not call it a pop-out experience because it was not exclusive, in the sense that I was still aware of, body and world and all this kind of stuff. So it was just like a flash expansion in a sense. Like, yeah.
Cool.
But say again.
Yeah. So you were not consciously seeking anything we could call
No.
spiritual or some holistic
No.
wisdom in any way.
Not at all. I think it was just sort of, my the depth of my being naturally wanting to emerge somehow, right? Like, so this whole journey of going somewhere in life and encountering difficulty and working with it and trying to get somewhere, this whole struggle, like I think it was all representative of my being just wanting to emerge somehow out of all of this dream stuff. So the deeper impulse sort of manifested that, I think, but not my conscious mind.
Right.
Yeah. And so that happened, and I was completely, kind of in shock for a moment, didn't know what to make of it. And then, but then the next morning, I immediately, ran to the bookstore and looked for like, what can I find on this kind of stuff. And I, started looking at like the mysticism, like, okay, well, I had some kind of a mystical experience. So what's around in terms of mystical experience? Like, let me sort of get a sense of what's happening there, or what's yeah, what have other people experienced? What's going on there? And yeah, then I all of a sudden, of course, encountered these kinds of phrases like awakening and Maya, the idea that the world is an illusion, more or less, this kind of stuff. And for the first time, then I, read about that or heard about these phrases even. And then, that sort of made this reading spree continue, and I kept again ingesting, book after book after book on these subjects. Became very interested in hermetics, the mystical arts, all that kind of thing.
What are hermetics? What's that?
Just metaphysical, the metaphysical arts, basically the. So yeah, read a lot of texts in that direction. I looked at some of the old Masonic texts. There was a sort of a Masonic library, like not far from where I lived.
Yeah,
and they had some rather like rare texts that I found quite interesting. I don't remember much about this right now, but just remember like being very interested in it. And basically, I kept reading and reading and reading things until somehow, as part of this reading excursion, I came across the Course in Miracles. And that was like a super, that was just a really pivotal moment, because when I found the course, or it found me, or however you want to word it. Like, it's just, there was this instant sense of reverence, like this, like, whoa, like,
Yeah. Can we just pause back a
yeah,
little bit to the, and we'll
course.
get back to
Yeah.
the Course of Miracles. I'm just curious with these mystic books.
Mhm.
Could you highlight one or a few sort of maybe answers or like nuggets of wisdom that really made a difference for you in your experience?
Not really, to be honest,
Okay.
because I almost don't, like, I hardly remember anything from like, I read quite a few books, and I hardly remember anything from them, to be
Cool.
honest. It's almost as if it was just like some way being paved to then find the Course in Miracles.
Gotcha.
That's sort of how it feels or felt. Yeah.
Cool.
I do
And
remember
then,
some from Carl Jung, some material from Jung, but from the other texts, not so much anymore. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're still reading the Course of Miracles, so I'm sure there's a.
Yeah. Occasionally, not as often
Uh,
anymore, but I do. I mean, I feel it's almost, with that text, it's also not, it's not just a book. It's like, it's associating with a frequency. It's associating with a living principle. That's why also every time I read it, it's different. It's yeah, it represents a direct connection to the spirit. So yeah.
nice. And so then you found the Course of Miracles, started reading that. What how did your journey evolve from there?
Well, yeah, somehow it became really focused all of a sudden. So first of all, like, for those who don't know, the Course in Miracles consists of two parts. So it has a regular text and a workbook. And the workbook consists of 365 lessons, one to be practiced each day. So the idea is to practice it for 1 year and to transform. So for me, it became immediately clear, well, I'm just going to do this. So I just started right away. I just started with these workbook lessons, and I was completely committed. Like, even if it would say, like, take this much time every 15 minutes, like, I would just set an alarm on my watch or something like this, and I would literally do it exactly as it was instructed, because I could sense the intelligence. I could sense where it was coming from. So I trusted the instruction. It's like, I'm going to do exactly what this says. And so I practiced these lessons, and then also, read the texts, aside, like, whenever I could, whenever I wasn't working or anything like that, I would just either read the text or practice the lessons. Like, that became my life. Every free moment, I would just do that.
And can you just share for people, because I also have never read the course. I know many people are familiar with it, but also I'm sure a lot of people aren't. And for those who may not be familiar, can you give a sense of what the book and those practices, what is it teaching? What is the what's the approach? Or,
well, the core idea, or the core approach, is remembering the love of God through forgiveness. You could call it that, or awakening through a practice of forgiveness, forgiving illusions. And forgiveness in the context of the course is not like, oh yeah, you did something bad to me, but I forgive you because I'm so good. It's more like, wow, I'm realizing reality of a higher nature, in which the seemingly bad events or seemingly unfavorable events can be recognized as never having been real. Therefore, forgiveness being sort of a blessing to shine away the darkness.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I feel a lot of people can resonate with that. And can you give an example how you applied it in your life? Like, what was, for example, one of the most relevant things that you chose to forgive, that you felt like you had to forgive yourself, or things happening in your life?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say that there's like some big examples that stand out. It was more like the point was more to actually practice seeing things in a different light when they arise. So let's say, for instance, like maybe like one person that always irritated me a lot, something like this, like that was certainly the case. And noticing my own reaction to that person becoming rather defensive somehow, becoming energetically contracted, and this and that, and upholding kind of a defensive posture. And then just practicing seeing everything in a different light, right? And then sort of you apply the lesson, which teaches you to perceive differently. And then it's like the texture of perception changes slightly. It's like the light is seeping through the cracks. You know what I mean, right? Like,
Nice.
so it starts to feel different. The quality of perception starts to feel different because somehow spiritual reality is taking hold a little bit in a way that we can sort of register. Yeah.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
And could you guide us through an example of like how that process looks like, of that shift in perception that you're talking about?
Well, it's just it's sort of a relaxation out of a solidified perspective, right? It's like usually we walk through the world and we are so convinced that everything is exactly the way it seems, and this is like this and this is like this, and everything has its name and everything has its category, and it's completely it is so organized, like there's no escape, pretty much, right? Like everything is labeled and categorized, and we know exactly what things are and how to react to them. And then it's just sort of like beginning to find an awareness that is prior to all of that, and therefore like relaxing out of that a little bit and not being so insistent on knowing what everything is. What if I don't know? And that kind of softening of insistence of the definition of everything that arises, right, is then also affecting the perception, because we live in a quantum reality. For those who are familiar with quantum physics, the act of observation influences the outcome, or influences what is observed. So same with this, the different quality in observation influences, again, what is observed. And so yeah, and that leads to these kind of peak experiences. Like I think everyone can probably relate to these kind of extraordinary moments when sometimes you get up earlier than usual, and you get out the front door, and the air is so fresh and the sun is coming up on the horizon. It's like, wow, this is so magical. Like, what's going on? It's the same front door, it's the same street, but all of a sudden it's like there's a heightened sense of life, a heightened sense of grace to this moment, and you can't quite explain it, right? And we sometimes drown in this sense of ordinariness, that there is no room left for anything extraordinary to come through. And at the same time, when we do leave that space vacant sufficiently, the extraordinary makes itself known.
Nice. And did you had other practices while doing that? Because, for example, a lot of people are doing meditation, or they suggest, or they believe, okay, that it's required to get to this sense of subtlety of being able to catch yourself in these beliefs and perceptions.
Well, meditation is part of the Course in Miracles'
Okay.
curriculum. That includes meditative practice, usually twice daily, and plus a whole bunch of shorter practice intervals throughout the day. So it's like very well organized in the sense of just how to approach it. Yeah.
Cool. And so up until this point, reading the book for some time, what were the first sort of really notable, significant difference in your day-to-day experience because of the teachings and the practices of forgiveness?
I became so much calmer. I became calmer. I became more relaxed. I became much less sort of insistent and obsessive about things. Actually, began to cultivate this sort of sense of things are okay the way they are. Like, what does the universe want from me, instead of like, what do I want from the universe? I started to shift more into that kind of perspective, and it started to feel more like, well, we're like witnessing this figure moving through space in different scenarios, and just responding as gracefully as possible, like while remaining this degree of awareness. And then it was no longer about trying to get this or that, or trying to get somewhere as much. It was more about maintaining this state of awareness and not falling from that. So each interaction, each scenario or each segment of the day would then offer like temptations as well as opportunities. And that's sort of how I looked at it. It's like, yeah, okay. And then if I did not fall into the temptation, but realized the opportunity, I would remain aware, or even feel slightly augmented in that awareness, or the whole scenario, the situation would feel like it was carried by this kind of awareness. And
could you give an example of that, of a temptation?
Yeah, for instance, to just to get angry at someone, or to, let me see if I can remember something specific. Yeah, I remember I had one neighbor, for instance, that I sort of had previously kind of, dismissed. I didn't think of him very highly, thought he was kind of a weird guy. And I had kind of put him into a box in my mind. So it's not like there was no like animosity or anything like that, but I had sort of labeled him as just less than, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I remember like one day I encountered him, and sort of there was almost this reflex arising in me from habit of sort of just like, not even like acknowledging him, or not even talking to him, and just kind of again putting him in this category, in this box, and dismissing him in a subtle way. Of course, not like, I was never like overtly impolite or anything like that, just a subtle way kind of dismissing him. But then I noticed that, and I was like, wait a second, I was like, I'm closing my mind to this being here. And then just stayed open, and allowed for something different to emerge somehow. And then again, like sort of all this judgment that I had before just fell away. And there was an interaction that was just sort of pure in a sense. And as a result, the quality of the space, the quality of the interaction, of the entire perceptual encounter, felt like it was like raised in frequency, raised in vibration. It was like, oh wow, this is like a wholeness again being palpable. And then every time that happens, I felt great. It's like, wow, it's like how something light is coming forth, and it's just something light is being shared. It's like there is a lightness of being in the universe, and there's opportunities to let it come forth together somehow, and life, everything responds to it somehow, mysteriously. Like it's like not like these people that you encounter in the street are spiritual practitioners, no, but they respond to how you see things, to how you come forth. Yeah.
Nice. And what happened? What was next?
What was next? So, where were we? Regular Course in Miracles practice. Okay, so then, yeah, I guess this is leading up to finding my teacher. So at that point, then I was completely committed to practicing the Course in Miracles. But I'd also heard about from the books that I had previously read, for instance, then I had read some texts on, Kundalini yoga and all kinds of other things. And I had heard the term Kundalini awakening. And well, there was some sort of clear recognition in me that awakening would not just be a shift of mind, or a shift, or sort of an opening of the mind, which would be an initial awakening, but a full-on awakening would be what I would now term psychophysical conversion of the whole being, in a sense, like that there's a bodily awakening, a bodily component to this awakening, which then translates the body or conforms the body to the light of reality. Current words, not the words I would have used back then. And so, yeah, somehow it occurred to me to do a search on the internet with Course in Miracles and Kundalini awakening, and like, I don't know what search terms I put together, something along those lines. And that led me to some videos online by who would become my teacher. And this is no longer online, so searching, putting in those search terms won't lead to this material anymore. But so he had a short video series online, and yeah, spoke of physical awakening. Spoke of the physical nature, the physical component of awakening. And something very, very extraordinary happened. And it was sort of akin to the moment where I had that, what you term pop out, this sort of expansive, this opening experience in the city. And I was opening those videos on my computer, and he spoke at the camera, but it was completely evident to me that he spoke to me directly in that moment. It was like he was behind the computer speaking directly at me. So it was a direct transmission of consciousness. It was not some guy on a video, where I could sort of like, yeah, let me eat some chips while I watch this. It was like, no, he's watching me. Like I have to sit up straight, like it was that intense. It was like clearly the fact, it was a fact that he was present in the room where I was watching this. And it was a fact that he could, that consciousness was watching me back, if you will, right? Which was really trippy to me. And this was the first time, so he initiated that experience for me. He was like, it was the first time when I could truly see myself in another, or self-recognition truly happened, where like the perceptual split sort of closed in a, wow, self-recognition. And of course that, I felt extraordinarily naked and exposed in that moment, even though I was by myself in my room. And but I was glued to the screen, and I just let that transmission occur, and I didn't know what the hell just happened. And then my next thought was, well, who is this being, and how can I, be in his presence? And it was like also very, very evident to me that this was not an ordinary human being. Like this was clearly a God realizer. Like I saw that, I could see this is not an ordinary human being. This being is transmitting something extraordinary. So that was very, very obvious to me, immediately recognizable. And so, like that just stuck with me and reverberated within me. And the thought of, well, how do I get close to this being was just kept surfacing.
And could you notice, like in that moment when you felt the transmission and this sense of there is another consciousness speaking directly to me, could you elaborate on what the experience was like? Could you feel something shifting, and was there something different afterwards?
Yeah.
At that, and what was that? Like, what was the potential that you felt in there?
Potential, huh? Yeah. So, well, I mean, it had an after effect. It was like it's almost like being a bit shell shocked, like something just blew up and your ears are still ringing. Like it was a bit of a shock somehow. Like again, the world looked slightly different after for a few days. It was that kind of moment where some transmission took place and some activation of some sort took place. And
what was different in how you perceived and experienced the world?
well, just the sense that you walk through a context of previous familiarity, but now you're aware of another component that you previously were not aware of. So mainly that sensation, that all of a sudden you bring a memory of a communication that permeates physical reality, and you just have sort of a fresh memory of it in a sense, and then it sort of fizzled out a little bit again, or like over some days. So it was not like a permanent state, but it was just activated for a moment, so that there's this deeper communication that permeates this form. And the sense that sensation that isolation is an illusion, that we're not isolated beings.
What do you mean by that? That we're not, that isolation is an illusion?
Yeah, well, the sense that, when you're, in your room by yourself, watching a video on YouTube or whatever, like you have the sense, you feel like you're just alone, like, no one's watching you, or you're just, you're just on your own, you're alone, you're isolated, you're a separate thing. You're like a nice separate package, like skin ends here, walls of the room, it's all nice and neat, and nice package, right? Isolated. And well, not so true. So there's so much more that permeates all this, and a greater light of awareness that shines through. And then there's just a question of awareness, of a degree of being aware of it, of realizing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what you're essentially pointing to is of the nature of what we are, which is awareness, which is not this physical body. And in that recognition, did they also have fear coming up? Because I know a lot of people either they're curious about it, but there's a lot of resistance, there's a lot of fear because of conditioning, attachment, what it is, and the sense we're gonna lose who we think we are. Did that occur for you as well, or was it
Yeah, for sure, not so much like in this particular context of that scenario, but in general, yeah, absolutely. That first experience, that expansion experience was super, like, very scary to me. And I had actually a little while later, I had another one, like at a friend's place by a mountain lake, where it was actually we were like rowing out on the lake at night, and then I had another one of those, and all of a sudden it was like all the stars in the sky were like molecules in my brain or something like this. It was just so expanded, and no substances involved, by the way. Like, this is just happened, right? So not induced in any way. And that was scary to me. It was trippy because it really shifted a sense of what's real and what's not.
Right.
And that was kind of disorienting for a moment.
Yeah, and I can obviously relate to that. And then throughout time, did you notice that fear becoming less or even disappearing completely at some point?
Yeah, it actually kind of intensified, I would say. Like, at times it intensified, but then the intensification of that fear was also, I think, a result of erroneous ideas about this process, and erroneous ideas about the depth of beingness, for lack of a better word, because then you have these sort of psychedelic moments, and then you perhaps think, oh yeah, that there's some truth to the psychedelic moment. So then, okay, the nature of reality is like psychedelic or something like this, which is then kind of fearful, but it's also not. That's completely not true, right? It's just a non-ordinary state of consciousness, but it's not reality, and it doesn't have ground as reality. It's just a psychedelic experience. So it's no more connected to reality in that sense than an ordinary state of consciousness. It's just a bit more loose, so you can see it's more permeable, perhaps, but it's not any more real.
Nice.
More true. And in fact, it can also sort of be related to a disintegration, then, also, in a sense that perhaps like certain higher centers begin to open, and the psychic domain is sort of accessed, but then perhaps the nervous system isn't so balanced, so the energy is not flowing through the body so well, or isn't grounded in the body so well, which can then lead to discordant experiences, and things like that.
Nice. I feel you're just touching upon something very key, which is the knowing reality versus having an epic, magical, spiritual experience.
Yeah.
And I'm observing that to be very common. I also been feeling and experiencing that a lot, because it can be so attracting for the mind to believe when we have this epic, amazing experience that feels perhaps ecstatic or just profoundly peaceful, to then label that as, oh, okay, so now I know reality, or now I'm one with God, whatever it is. And these other experiences are not that. So how would you describe actual reality? How do you know in your experience, okay, this is, now I'm actually in direct experience, in direct connection, oneness with reality?
First of all, I wanted to actually share something about the pursuit of the psychedelic experiences, because then I did have a phase where I actually went to or attended a bunch of ayahuasca ceremonies, which I wouldn't recommend anymore to anyone. And I saw in hindsight also that sort of this intense seeking involving these substances, or you can call them plant medicines, was actually motivated, if I was really honestly examining it, motivated by despair. Okay, I'm somehow desperate, I'm seeking for God, for resolution, for relief of my suffering, and I'm willing to blow my brains out to get it, pretty much, right? And so I feel like for a lot of people, that kind of pursuit is fueled by despair. So it's already imbalanced to begin with, right? And so I just wanted to say that. And your question on the nature of reality, I'm not sure how to answer it, to be honest. I don't have any words for that right now.
It's very subtle topic. And can you share about how do you feel in your state of being when
we're in tune with that?
Yes.
I mean, I would say wholeness is an interesting benchmark, in a sense, like a sense of wholeness. There's no longer a sense of something missing, a sense of wholeness sort of washing through. A sense of wholeness in which everything is carried.
Beautiful.
So that, like, imagine a sense of wholeness that would permit you to forget about all perceptual experience for a moment. Like perception could just disappear, but it was already carried in this wholeness. So it's like bigger than that. That sort of sensation. But at the same time, yeah, I feel I'm very like hesitant to speak about these things in a sense, because I'm always discovering more. Right? So I don't feel I'm qualified to speak in absolute terms. As I'm learning more and teach learning more, growing more.
What would you advise for people who are curious about this, who feel a spark when they hear these descriptions, these experiences of this underlying stability, awareness that is transcendent of any perception? Like where to, like how to approach that, or how to start there?
Yeah.
Like what's been, from your experience, what's been the most one of the most important lessons in there?
I mean, I think there are different components to it. And one really important one is certainly that initial point of contact, right? Like for me, it was the Course in Miracles, which was not just reading a book. It was represented a spiritual contact. It turned a light on somehow, right? And for different people, those are different things. Like you may encounter a teacher that you really resonate with, and an awakened teacher, and that's sort of, whoa, like making you spiritually aware all of a sudden. Or yeah, you may read some text, or like whatever it may be. Most people have sort of this initial contact point that's sort of fueling this inspiration. But the only reason you can be inspired is because you recognize something, right? So you're already realizing something. Otherwise, you wouldn't be inspired by it. If you didn't have the recognition, it wouldn't inspire you. So you somehow have this first point of contact with spiritual reality. And then there's all kinds of other work that emerges around that. Then purification work begins, balancing work begins, all of this kind of stuff. So you're working on different levels of the being. You're working with all kinds of things.
Right. And then you also had the experience of the ashram, and so this.
So just sorry, excuse me, not meaning to interrupt, but just So for instance, it took me quite a while to get to a point where I really consciously I became really aware that I still needed balancing in my nervous system, for instance, and that even though I'd spent years and years in the company of a great master and drenched in the light of grace, I still needed like some healing work in my nervous system, and that required a specific approach, or required some specific work on the level of relations in this case, or mammalian contact, if you will. And so sometimes I like to look at the human structure sort of like a Christmas tree, where it's like I forgot who described it as such, for like the human nervous system being sort of like a Christmas tree. So you have at the top, you have a connection to the divine, the star at the top, and then you have all of these little branches with lights on them that are then connected to the surroundings, that are like illuminating,
and hopefully deeply rooted roots.
Exactly.
Nice. I think you're just touching upon something very very important, because I think a lot of people, and I was one of them, who have this perception that just having the recognition is like that's the end destination of the spiritual journey, then
Yeah.
I'm there, then I've understood, and
Right.
That's it. Then it's just
Yeah.
living a wondrous life after that. And of course, at least in my experience, life becomes more
Yeah.
magical and beautiful.
Yeah.
But as you already said, there's still on other levels, in most cases, for most people, there's still work to be done. What was for you, after those moments of recognition, something that you were that you felt compelled to work on or to balance out?
Like after the initial moments? Well, after the initial moments, I had no such intention. Like I was just like, it was like riding this initial high, right? I'm sure you, like you just described, like you have this initial recognition. It's like, wow, you finally found something real. So you're excited and you want to ride that wave. And there is sort of like, it was just sort of this growing of awareness, this expansion of awareness, persisting in that, and that became the predominant practice. And then you enter into human relations and you realize you still have trigger points, right? If you're really honest, and you see that there's all kinds of patterning. You're patterned in all kinds of ways that are those patterns are seemingly running on autopilot, and you feel like you have, you haven't reclaimed so much control really. So you're in certain situations and your reactions are automatic. They're not conscious. Your conscious mind has some response, but then your body, your nervous system, your emotional body has all kinds of pattern responses that you did not choose consciously in that moment. And then you realize, okay, so maybe there is some stuff to purify. It's like the idea with the iceberg, and like, what is it, 90% being underwater. And so at first, like, yeah, you're aware of all of this stuff, and you heal some things, you purify some things, and whoop, more emerges, right? And more comes to the surface. And I think it's a little bit like that as well.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. Because the conditioning, I remember from my own experience how great it felt to believe, like, oh, okay, so now I'm purified, now I'm healed, and now there's I'm finally done with all this inner work and exploration of the mind and the belief systems and all of this, until obviously life shows you some challenges to reflect to you that that's not exactly the case. What has been some of the most powerful tools that you use to purify these energies, these beliefs, these trigger points?
Staying, persistence. Like for me, it's like, it's staying, because if you're in an uncomfortable situation of any kind, or you're being triggered or whatever it is, so you're being touched somehow in a way that you don't quite prefer. So the tendency is to run away, or to move away, to withdraw. Like in relationship, for instance, you're in some kind of argument. Doesn't matter if it's personal relationship, work relationship, feel animosity or some tension. Like the tendency is to withdraw, to run away. And whenever you stay and you stay aware, then all of these pressures that are felt, they're actually alchemizing something. And I believe it was Adida who said that until enlightenment, light is felt as heat. And only after, a certain process of purification is it then really felt and known as light. But until then, there's heat, produces heat.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this attitude or approach of just staying with it, like continuously cultivating awareness, presence, so that it becomes fully seen and known. What would you say is the value or place of these more, let's call them practical things that people apply, like tools like breath work or having a specific diet, these sort of worldly things, because there's different perceptions around that of how important that is.
I mean, I love them, but I think it's all a matter of levels. Like, the important thing is to not confuse levels, right? For instance, diet has clearly the, very important effects on the body, right? So, myself, for instance, I switched to a keto diet, was it like a year and a half ago or something like this, and noticed the profound effects on my capacity to focus, and sort of having a more, flatlined energy state throughout the day. And that's just, bodily energy, like the organism, and how it functions. And many times, even when it comes to things like our mood, right, we may think we're at the mercy of some erratic mood, when actually it's actually just processes in the body that can be regulated through food. But a lot of the time, we're not willing to be really honest with that, or really sort of scientifically observant of it within ourselves, because we're just slacking about it. We want to just indulge in things that we like, and that's it, and then whatever else happens as a result seems to be some unexplainable mystery. But so oftentimes, we don't have the staying power and the stamina and the willpower to actually really look at what effects do certain things have, and what does it take to change it, right? And that's just but something I love. I think it's very important. And same with breath work, again, like certain effects on the nervous system can release a lot of emotional charges, things like that, release a lot of emotional energy, and of course also achieve certain altered states of consciousness as well. I love breath work. I think it's a great tool. And all these things, everything has its place at its level. And the important thing is to just be aware of the levels, to not confuse the levels. Just like, oneness and, not just taking someone's car, different levels.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's often I see these sort of two camps of people, either who project a lot of importance and almost a sense of salvation in these let's say lifestyle habits or tools to make it easy for the body to transcend these heavier, denser energies. Or the other camp, which is more that I was inclined to almost completely dismiss it and just focus on the inner work in terms of focusing and recognizing awareness and just merging more in that that wholeness of our true essence. Cool. And then you also
one thing I would like to add real quick is that I do feel it's very important. Like, for me, it's very important to practice what I would call conductivity, like to actually the capacity to conduct energy also through the body, and to actively participate in the process of the body being conformed to reality, in a sense, so that to plug all these energy leaks through, distractions of all kinds of, natures. So, like, for instance, like with food, to bring food taking into a certain balance, to not just waste all kinds of energy through random indulgences, or with attention too, sort of, again, practicing confining attention to things that are life positive, that are in alignment, that are supporting a realignment of the psychophysical structure to sourcefulness, to the source, not engaging in all kinds of, like, degenerating life practices, but again, like, learning to accumulate energy. Like human adulthood, like I've heard it said, which I really liked, is essentially accumulating energy, learning to accumulate energy, which is then used for raising vibration and transcendence. Yeah. Or first actualization, raising vibration, actualization, and transcendence. And that for that, the energy needs to be used rightly.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which is why I'm a huge fan of, like, very, like, meticulous, sort of orderly yogic approaches to life. Yeah.
Nice. I'd like to highlight more your experience with the teacher, and because you mentioned you meeting him through the first online, and then there was this same teacher that you went to the ashram.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the difference in terms of how you felt and experienced coming deeper into reality, into the truth of our being, of our essence, connection with God, grace of God, like comparing that being in the presence of a physical teacher compared to reading the book and applying the tools and exercises in it?
It was an intensification. So, like, first of all, like, when I finally met him in person, it was like the same as with the video, so it's the same presence, the same aware presence. And he responded in the same way. Like, first time I met him, he responded as, as like he knows me. And that was a bit unusual, of course. It's like that sense of really being seen, like with X-ray eyes almost, and being recognized, being seen. And so it was just more intense. Also having access to a realized being who essentially acts as a mirror, it's just very an intense experience. So it's like you, every little point in your subconscious is being touched in a way that is not always pleasant, and can be very unpleasant, in fact. But it's just sometimes I like to think of it similar to, when you're like my leg was a little bit like starting to fall asleep now, right? So I extended my leg. When you have your limb is asleep and you extend it, and then the blood begins to go in, and it starts to, like, have these, like, sharp, pains that arise as a result of the blood returning to your limb. A little bit like that, I feel like, when you're with a teacher, and all of these points being, like, touched in your subconscious, and, like, awareness returning to them. It's like
Right.
a little bit weird. Yeah,
It's like a rewiring or reconfiguration of the subconscious almost that's happening.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
there's some like, and again, through submitting to it and staying with it, something purifies. And just allowing for content and sensations of your subconscious to sort of surface, that you, it feel very strange at times.
Yeah. Now I'm sure there's people hearing this and they're like, feeling so exposed and feeling like some really vulnerable or uncomfortable parts of your subconscious being seen or being, kind of pulled to the foreground, and the uncomfort in that. Like maybe for some people it's obvious and they have already have assumptions, but what do you feel? What was the value of that? What was the effects of allowing yourself to have these parts exposed and for it to come up?
Yeah, again, purification is the greatest benefit, but also
and then how you do experience purification in your day-to-day life? Like what does it mean, your direct experience?
Yeah, for instance, I'll give you an example. So my teacher could just read my mind like an open book. So I remember once spending time with him, like working together on something, and judgmental thoughts arising in me about him. And it was not even like, the regular kind of scenario, like whenever you judge someone and it's already kind of in you and it's like already sort of premeditated. It was just like, I didn't have that kind of thought about him. So it was just spontaneously arising, sort of subconsciously arising. and I knew he can read my mind. So it was just like, oh shit, I felt so much shame. He was just looking at me, like clearly, like it being self-evident that whatever comes up through me is seen by him. And that sort of like put me into this corner of having nothing other than awareness to rely on. Sort of is like, well, he clearly sees what's going on, but he's also not judging it. He's somehow fanning, or he's firing. He's like somehow the fire that accelerates this process. And so these things are arising in me probably to evaporate in the light of awareness, right? So again, then I realized, shit, so if I react now and I try to like put on some posture, hide something, or react the other way, like lean into it reactively, to like intensify projection or something like that, all of that, none of that would be surrender, and none of that would lead to the purification of this subconscious content, meaning the burning of it in the light of awareness. So it just became this practice of, okay, just staying with it, not judging it, not judging myself, not judging anything, just letting it arise and letting it burn. And that's, it can be extremely uncomfortable. But then you can also kind of get used to it a little bit. And then practice sort of like holding this kind of posture while things burn a little bit. And then again, of course, this is the beauty. And then once things clear out more, then what's left is sort of a natural conductivity, a natural like ease and peace. Then it doesn't feel like there's some tension in the air where you're trying to, maintain some posture that's kind of fake. And you on the conscious level, you intuit that it's kind of fake, but you don't know why, because there's some stuff in the subconscious that you're like trying to keep down, but you don't know what it is because you're keeping it down, right?
Right.
So being in this kind of unbalanced mode, and then when that actually does clear out, there is a very natural, harmonious, joyous conductivity, and then that's sort of a great gift that's offered by these teachers. That they're willing to go through this kind of rather unique ordeal with a student in order to clear out all this stuff. Yeah.
Cool, nice. Yeah, I really feel this ease and peace that you mentioned that we seek, especially when we're still so identified with the suffering and our lives don't flow.
Yeah.
I'm curious then, what as you were coming more and more into that natural inherent peace that is that's just always already here, but covered up with all these other forces and mind habits. How was your life, like also the external part, not just feeling better, but also other aspects of your life? How were they shifting and transforming?
Well, I mean, first of all, I should mention then that I moved to an ashram to live with the teacher permanently, and helped, in fact, build that ashram. So I really dedicated my life completely to this process and to serving my teacher and serving this process. So yeah, I lived a very focused life in that sense. Like I was completely only about that. Yeah. For a long time, like 10 years or something like that. Yeah.
Nice. So I love that you're bringing this up, because I definitely feel there's a place for discipline and changing circuits, habits or lifestyle in a way so it can be more supportive of
definitely
of just your process of embodiment of who we really are, of our essence, and allow for the purification to happen more easily with less distractions. So how do you see that, and what was for you, did it play a role in you going to the ashram?
Not really, to be honest. Like I was already, in terms of discipline, I was already super disciplined. Like I practiced rigorously every day, like meditation, clearly, on schedule every day, like very, very disciplined. Also pretty disciplined with diet, all these kinds of things. Like I was not undisciplined. I was undisciplined in some other aspects, but I wasn't so aware of that at the time. When it comes to perhaps use of media and all of that kind of stuff. But the motivation to go to the ashram was not to have an environment where I'd be more disciplined. It was to take advantage of the unique opportunity to live in close proximity with a realized teacher, which is just a rare thing, right? It's not like you find a realized teacher on every street corner. That's sort of a rare opportunity, and it felt like the highest opportunity available. Or in fact, I didn't know it was available at first, but I felt like I should pursue that. Like if there is someone who has achieved what I wish to achieve, who has realized what I wish to realize, who has stabilized the realization of what I wish to realize, then it would make sense that I am around that one as much as possible. Yeah, that was the idea, and it does make sense. It's of course it makes sense. But then there's also nuances to that in terms of exposure to a teacher and integration in your own life and all this kind of stuff, which yeah.
So what were some of the most powerful or impactful transformational moments that you can recall during the time in ashram?
I mean, there are so many, and they're kind of daily, right? So it's not even, it's not even like there are these few things that stand out. But I had I remember, like, not that long after I first came to the ashram, I had again another profound opening in a meditation that went way further than what I had experienced before. And that was just, again, sort of began with perceptual reality being recognized as sort of a mirror and coming in on me, or collapsing in on me, sort of the mirror collapsing in on me. And then again, recognizing the energy of my teacher also, and then going beyond this perceptual reality, and discovering what I would later recognize, or like what I would later how do you say this, read about as like the subtle bodies. Like, again, I had no context at the time of what subtle bodies are, what a mental body is, or what a causal body is. I had no idea, but I was then like very clearly going through the more subtle body experiences, and arriving sort of at the birthplace of the separate being, or where the sense of separate self is actually birthed, and got a glimpse of what's on the other side. And that was very profound, very, very profound. But in general also, like, because we the way we speak about spirituality often in this modern day and age, we speak about it in this sort of cool terms, like, oh yeah, awareness and non-dual, and it's also chill and cool, and whatever, kind of, but God is glorious. God is glorious. It's not, God is not like, bullshit. God is glorious. Yeah.
So when you mentioned the subtle body, how would you describe, what is your understanding of what it is? Because I know not all paths or all teachers are using this terminology. And
I mean, I still feel like my sort of understanding of that is not entirely complete. So I don't think I should spend too much time speaking about it. But just in terms of, like, just to relate to this experience again, like, this experience like brought me like straight through this kind of what's often called the void, that place of nothingness. And then with like referencing other material later on, I could clearly see that that's often that's what's often referred to as the causal body. It actually feels like this place of nothingness, but it's where sort of the somethingness emerges from, right? So and it feels like sort of an arrival. And at that time, actually, I remember, oh shit, is that it? Sort of, there's this, there were no like verbal thoughts, but this sort of intrinsic inquiry. Is this sort of it? Is that a destination? Is this an arrival place? And all as a feeling, intuition inquiry, because there's no sense of body left at that point, or separate self or anything like that, like not like a character. But there was a clear, like, no, it's not it. There's something beyond. It's way more beyond. And so, yeah.
This void that you mentioned, would you say that is the same as awareness or our, aka our true self, or is it something different?
I would say it's different. Because first of all, you're aware of a void, right? So it's not like the void is aware of you. You're aware of the void. So somehow in this void, you are aware. So yeah, definitely different in my experience.
I want to go back to what you said earlier in the conversation when you mentioned universe, and you mentioned, if I remember correctly, change that what started to change was your attitude towards life, in the sense that of coming from the question, okay, how can I be of service to the universe?
More like
what does universe call from me? Is calling from me, something like this. You said,
what does
right?
it want from me?
And you mentioned God before. What is the universe according to you? Is it the same as God?
Oh man. I don't know how to answer that. Like, say the universe is definitely consciousness. I don't know, man. I feel like I'm kind of getting past my pay grade here. Yeah.
It's one of those themes that they can be, I don't know, so subtle, but we also have our own ideas of it, and ultimately there's no good or bad answer. Because I feel, at least, there are terms to point something that's so mysterious and so beyond the comprehension of our physical brain, our mind. But yeah, we all speak about it. Everyone speaks about life. Everyone speaks about intelligence, or where the source, or God, or universe, or nature, even. So we all, in a way, somehow, something in us knows it, but yet
I feel like I find it often it's much more powerful to not know, but not know in the sense of not know it, but not know in the sense of not describe it, not put it into a category in the conceptual mind, but know it directly. In a sense, right? Like that sense of knowing directly.
Yeah, I feel it can be a double-edged sword. In some ways, it can be sometimes helpful to have a concept which isn't the actuality of it, what the word is pointing to, what the term is pointing to. And at the same time, it can also become a trap when the mind makes it a thing, and what you said then becomes a perception. And then we can think, oh, we're actually in direct connection with consciousness, or the universe, or life as it is, when actually we're in a bubble, we're in a perception that we've that the mind has created, and now we think that's it. Correct, I love that.
Correct.
Cool. What do you feel is now most relevant in your journey, in your seeking, in your process of embodiment, purification? What is most alive?
Well, I think you said the key word, embodiment. I feel like that's the most alive for me right now. It's like yeah, sort of the continued shift from seeking something to letting it be present now, all the way to the toes, ideally speaking, letting the really kind of having a hard time finding words for it, but yeah, continually letting the body become a representation of that alignment, to the source, instead of a display of resistance, or a representation of resistance to life, resistance to the source, right? And therefore like a reinforcement of separation. But opening it up, and letting it become an integral participant in a sourceful co-creation. That's the desire. Like, that's how I would express the desire. And that, while becoming ever increasingly aware of all the subtleties of all of the different levels involved, and participating intelligently in that entire spectrum. So becoming more and more whole again, like yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I want to touch upon another, it's another subject or another element to the journey of embodiment. Is something what we talked about earlier today, which is having the idea of a men's group.
Yeah. Ooh,
and
juicy. Love it.
Yeah, what can you say? What is the value of a men's group, and yeah, where do you see your role in that realm?
I mean, I just, first of all, I think it's just incredibly valuable for for men to, or women, or just people of one gender to gather, because I think we're really sort of, it helps us to align with the archetypal essence of man, with what man is at the core, in a sense, and to really feel into that, to let that be augmented in us archetypically, and therefore strengthen and support us. And I think just by being together in that intention, it brings forth this inner reference, and that can be incredibly supportive and nourishing, and revealing, even in terms of like, what does it mean to be a man, like a man of God, like a man in alignment to source, right? To let that archetypal blueprint become clear, more refined. And this is where brotherhood, I think, is just crucial.
Yeah.
Crucial. Not even to mention, of course, then supporting each other, working through things, and so on and so forth. But just at the core, this energetic essence of just being together and examining what man is. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I agree with that. Like, also, a lot of teachers are saying that men heal best with other men, and same goes
Yeah,
for
yeah,
women.
makes sense.
I can also relate from my own experience. Um, so I think to wrap it up, let's see what the question is. Yeah, can you say about what? Because I think you mentioned you wanted to create or facilitate this
A men's group, yeah, yeah,
men's group.
yeah. I think that's going to come up at some point. Yeah.
So, who are the men that are a great fit for this group?
I think in my case, like I sort of had this idea to yeah, bring together a group of friends in a sense, like group of men who um, are somewhat exposed to more subtle work, of course, like some sort of self-examination, who've already contacted, the world of becoming aware of your patterns and this and that, and subtler influences, and who are aware of the need of healing in the world, and but who also appreciate the sort of go-getter qualities of masculinity, and out of the business, these kinds of aspects, who appreciate that, and are interested in perhaps healing some of their deeper wounds, um, and become stronger in the essence that they know they truly are. Yeah, that's how I would word it. But I wouldn't really know how to describe the ideal archetype or the ideal person for that sort of gathering. No.
Gotcha. And let's say some men now watching, listening to this, they resonate with this.
Yeah.
Can they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Already?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. They
cool.
can reach out to you, and you can point them to me.
As well. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll make sure we post
Yeah.
a link to your social media here
Gladly.
below, so people can find you.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. Gladly.
Nice.
Cool.
Cool. Is there anything left that you uh, want to share with the world? Like, let's say hypothetically,
Yeah.
this would, and maybe this is putting you on the spot, but let's just try it out. um, this is your last chance to speak to the world. Like, you have an opportunity to speak to all of humanity, and everyone will hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's assume that for a moment. What would you tell the world? What would you tell the human collective?
I would say I'm not sure I would say anything.
Maybe just a transmission of a peaceful silence.
Yeah, I just don't think there's kind of a catchphrase to summarize everything, or to point to some sort of important last word or something like this. I'm not sure if that's the case. I think reality, or God, is far greater and more mysterious than the human mind can conceive of. And I guess what I would say is dare to love, dare to love, dare to love. Yeah. The situation you're in is challenging. The human situation is challenging, and it offers every reason to close your heart. And it offers every justification to withhold love. So dare to love.
Wow. That's some powerful words. Don't feel like I want to add anything to that. It feels like a perfect ending of this podcast moment together. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. This was super fun. Love talking to you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you, bro. That was so fun. I really enjoyed that. Thank you. Thank you, man.